I personally love college football recruiting. The feeling of your team getting a big time commit like a 4 and 5 star, there's no feeling like it. But let's face it, in this current landscape of college football with all the moving parts, commitments mean less and less each year. In this video, I want to take a look back at some notable players that had decommitted from schools previously. Some of these players you've definitely heard of, but some of them you might not know were committed to these schools. Do you know that Florida State great running back Delvin Cook was initially committed to Clemson before flipping to Florida and eventually signing with the Seminoles? There's not much info out there about Cook and his pledge to Clemson, but he did flip from the Tigers to the Florida Gators in the spring of 2013 after a conversation with then Florida head coach Will Muschamp. The Gators, however, would proceed to go 4-8 in the 2013 season, and Cook would, understandably so, like to jump off that bandwagon and would flip to Florida State in January of 2014, shortly before National Signing Day. Did you know that Cincinnati Bengals star wide receiver and former Clemson star T. Higgins was at one point committed to his home state school, the Tennessee Volunteers? Higgins was committed to the Vols from August of 2015 to February of 2016. He and five-star quarterback Hunter Johnson committed to the Vols exactly a day apart from one another, and were looking like they were going to be a lethal duo for Tennessee throughout the future. Of course, both would end up at Clemson, and Johnson's career wouldn't exactly go according to plan. Anyways, after Higgins' decommitment from Tennessee, he would have an open recruitment for a little while, would eventually name a final three of Clemson, Ole Miss, and Tennessee, before committing to the Clemson Tigers on the 4th of July, giving them some extra fireworks. Up next is former North Carolina star quarterback Sam Howell, whose decommitment from Florida State possibly changed the trajectory of the program. Howell committed to the Seminoles in April of 2018 under then head coach Willie Taggart. Howell would remain committed to the Norse for a while, but throughout his commitment to them, he would also visit North Carolina multiple times, would end up flipping to the in-state Tar Heels on the early national signing period in December of 2018. Howell would decommit from Florida State in part due to the offensive coordinator Ward Bell leaving the program, and also in part due to North Carolina hiring Mack Brown as their new head coach. Of course, it couldn't have helped that Florida State proceeded to go 5-7 in 2018, that Willie freaking Taggart was their head coach. After Howell's decommitment from Florida State would proceed to go on a laughably bad run at recruiting quarterbacks out of high school that you can argue still going on. They would not sign a quarterback in the class of 2019, and they would sign Trevor Purdy in the class of 2020, who's most well known as being Brock Purdy's younger brother. Trevor would only play for the Seminoles for 2 years and will only play in 4 games for them, starting one as a true freshman in 2020. As of now, Trevor is actually currently playing for the Nevada Wolfpack. They would proceed to sign nobody in the class of 2021, but would sign A.J. Duffy in the class of 2022, but Duffy would never work out for them, only playing in 4 games before transferring out to San Diego State. Guys like Bart Glenn and Luke Kromenhoek hope to change this trend for the Norse, but man, they haven't had a good quarterback committed since Sam Howell. What if I told you there was not one but 2 Georgia commits that ended up flipping to Alabama, proceeding to win the Heisman Trophy, one of which even caught a game-winning touchdown against the Bulldogs in the national title game? Yeah, well, this happened, and yes, both Derrick Henry and Devonta Smith were at one point committed to Georgia. In the case of Derrick Henry, he had been committed to Georgia for roughly a year when he decommitted. He decommitted following a visit to Alabama. In his note announcing his decommitment from Georgia, Henry noted that he felt like he went a little bit too fast in the process and he wanted to make sure he made the correct decision. He also noted that he still considered Georgia throughout the process, but he did commit to Alabama just a couple months later. All Henry would do with his career was go on to become one of the greatest running backs to ever live. It's a tough one, Georgia, but Georgia did have some really good running backs throughout the time that Derrick Henry was in college. Devonta Smith, on the other hand, wasn't committed to Georgia very long. He's only committed there from August of 2015 to January of 2016. During that time, he took visits to other schools like Alabama, like Ole Miss, and like Mississippi State. Smith decommitted from Georgia shortly after the firing of Mark Richt and the hiring of Kirby Smart. It appears that Smith never really considered Georgia again, and he dragged his recruiting process on a while, before finally committing to Alabama and go on to become one of the greatest wide receivers in college football history, becoming a name for the Bulldogs. That will do it for this video, and please consider liking and subscribing, and also let me know if you want me to do another video like this in the comments below. All 6 of you watching this. Thanks.